The building looked abandoned from the outside. A gray concrete block with no sign, no windows, and a single buzzing light above a rusted metal door. It was off Highway 19, just far enough from town to feel forgotten. I pulled up in my beat-up car, checked the email for directions again, and hesitated. I didn't know it yet, but I was already too far in. Inside was just as empty. No receptionist, no security, just a front desk with a tray labeled for night staff, and a single plastic ID badge with my name already printed. No one greeted me. No one explained anything. Just a long hallway lit by buzzing fluorescents and an elevator at the far end, waiting with its doors already open. I took the elevator down to sub-level 3. The air got colder as I descended, like something was being peeled away layer by layer. The doors opened with a soft ding, revealing a narrow room packed with servers and humming machines. At the far wall, 6 monitors glowed quietly. My chair sat in the middle of it all, already pulled out, like someone had been waiting. The instructions were simple. Monitor flagged security footage from the last 24 hours, look for any anomalies, and hit report if something seemed off. Most of the footage was boring. Long shots of sterile hallways, storage rooms, and sealed doors. No audio, no camera movement, just stillness. It didn't feel like a building. It felt like a tomb. Every door in the footage had one strange detail. No handles, just flat, brushed metal. Some had digital locks, others didn't. One particular door caught my attention. Camera 4C showed a hallway with a steel door at the end. And every night, at 2:37 a.m. exactly, the feed would glitch for 1 second. A brief pulse of static like something breathing into the signal. I flagged it on the 3rd night. Wrote, "Glitch at 02:37, recurring possible hardware issue." No reply, no follow-up. Just another shift. I started watching that camera more closely. I even stayed awake just to catch the glitch as it happened. When it hit, I paused it frame by frame, and on one frame, I saw something. A shape. A shadow that wasn't supposed to be there. It wasn't detailed. Just wrong. Too tall. Too narrow. It didn't look like a person. It looked like the memory of one. When I blinked, it was gone. I scrubbed through the footage again. Nothing. I checked the logs. No motion alert. But I knew what I saw. It felt like the camera was lying to me. Like it didn't want me to see what was really there. I stopped turning on the lights after that. The security room was better in darkness. I told myself it was easier on the eyes, but it wasn't that. I didn't want to see anything in the reflection behind me. I began to feel like I wasn't alone. Like something just outside the room was holding its breath, waiting for me to move. On night 5, the motion alert triggered at 3:12 a.m. I jumped. Camera 4C. I clicked immediately on nothing. Just the hallway again. Still, sterile, empty, but the motion system didn't lie. I rewound, watched frame by frame, and there it was, 5 frames, a blur, tall, thin, the same shape. It didn't walk, it jerked. One frame it was near the door, then halfway down the hall, then gone. I slammed the spacebar and paused the footage. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it echo in the quiet room. I stared at the frame, that blurred, hunched figure. The longer I looked, the more I felt like it was staring back at me. There were no eyes, but I felt seen. I hit report again, hard. The system blinked, then it crashed. A blue screen. The feed rebooted on its own after a few seconds, and the figure was gone. No blur, no trace. I checked the logs. Nothing. It was like it never happened. Except now, I was sweating through my shirt and terrified to even turn around. I didn't sleep that day, I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that hallway, and that thing stepping closer, 1 frame at a time. My apartment felt cold when I got home, like I'd brought something with me. I turned on every light, but it didn't help. The shadows were wrong. They didn't feel empty. The next night, I walked into the security room and noticed something instantly. The chair had moved. Not by much, just a few inches away from the desk, but I always pushed it in. I told myself I was imagining things. I sat down, logged in, and checked the last motion flags. Camera 2B. Break room. I clicked the footage. At first, it looked normal. An empty break room with a vending machine, 2 tables, and a microwave. But then, the figure appeared again, standing right in the middle of the room. This time, it wasn't blurry. It was still. Too still. Like a cardboard cutout someone had dropped into reality by mistake. It was taller than any person I'd seen. Its arms reached nearly to its knees, thin and limp. Its head was cocked sideways at a painful-looking angle. It didn't move. It didn't blink. But it knew where the camera was. Slowly, deliberately, it raised one of its impossibly long arms and waved. I shoved my chair back so hard it slammed against the server rack. My breath caught in my throat. My instinct screamed, "Don't move." I stared at the screen as the figure's hand froze mid-wave. Then the feed cut to black. No signal. When it returned, the room was empty again. But the wave, it was for me. That's when the humming in the room changed. It was subtle, just enough for the hairs on my arms to rise. Like the servers were reacting to something else in the room. I turned around slowly, my chair creaking like a scream in the silence. Nothing, just rows of machines. But I could feel it. Something watching from the dark. I went to quit the job the next day. Drove out to the facility in daylight, but the gate was locked. The building looked even more lifeless under the sun. I called the contact number in the email. No response. I searched the address online. Nothing. No company name. No employee list. I couldn't find any trace of the place existing. That night I debated not going back. But I did. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to prove something. Or maybe I wanted answers. When the elevator opened to sub-level 3, the lights inside flickered, and for a split second, just one, I saw a reflection in the brushed metal wall, something standing behind me. I turned fast, but the elevator was empty. Just steel walls and that faint metallic stink you never really notice until you're afraid. I stared at the back wall where the reflection had been, searching for any trace. There was nothing. But I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever had been behind me hadn't come from the elevator. It had come with me. The moment I stepped out into the hallway, the lights overhead began to buzz louder than usual. A deep electrical drone like angry bees trapped in the ceiling. I passed Camera 4C's hallway on my way to the control room. The steel door at the end. It was open, wide, black. I stopped walking. That door had never been open. I slowly walked up to the monitors and sat down, unable to tear my eyes from the live feed. The hallway cam still showed the door wide open. There were no lights inside. No motion. But the motion alert was blinking red. The system thought something was moving in there. I increased brightness, turned up contrast, the screen stayed black. Suddenly something moved. I didn't see it. I felt it. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up like static had touched me. The hallway lights began to flicker one by one, starting at the open door and moving toward the camera. Like something invisible was passing beneath them. Something massive. My hand hovered over the report button again, but I didn't press it. What was the point? No one was reading them, and besides, it didn't feel like something I could report. How do you explain the shape of absence? It was like the air itself was folding inward, warping, hiding something not meant for human eyes. Then the camera feed glitched. The static ripped through the screen, accompanied by a high-pitched tone that pierced the air like a scream without lungs. For just one frame, the thing was visible. A tall, bone-thin shape with backwards bending legs and arms that dragged behind it like wet cables. Its head was split vertically, as if cracked open and smiling, and then it was gone. The hallway lights returned. The door was closed. I rewound the footage, frame by frame. Nothing. Just static. No creature. No movement. Like the system itself refused to let me see it twice. I was shaking now, my breath coming in short bursts. The hum in the servers had stopped. And that's when I heard it. Not from the speakers, not from the footage, but from behind me. A dragging sound. Slow. Wet. Like something was being pulled across the concrete. I didn't want to turn. I couldn't. Every instinct told me I was prey, but the sound grew louder until it stopped just inches from my chair. I turned suddenly, swinging around in the chair, ready to run. But there was nothing, just an empty floor, except one thing had changed. A handprint. Long, spindly fingers pressed into the dust on the floor, like something had rested there, crouched inches from me. The fingers were too long, too thin, and there were 6 of them. I bolted from the room, running down the hallway without looking back. The elevator doors were already open, waiting again, like always. I jumped in and slammed the button for the surface. As the doors began to close, the lights flickered again, and just before they sealed shut, I saw something step into view at the far end of the hall. I didn't look long. I didn't need to. I'll never forget that shape. Its arms reached the floor. Its skin looked damp, and its face, if you could call it that, was nothing but a smooth sheet of stretched flesh, pulsing faintly like something was moving underneath. Then the doors closed and I was alone, or so I hoped. When I reached the surface, I didn't go home. I drove for hours, no music, no destination, just the road and my thoughts, each one darker than the last. I ended up sleeping in a parking lot. My phone had no signal. When I finally woke up, I had a message, unknown number. It just said, "You saw it. We saw you." I didn't go back the next night, or the night after. I ignored every automated message. The emails piled up. No caller ID numbers lit up my phone. I changed it. Still, something always reached me. A low buzzing in the night. A shadow behind my curtains. A feeling that if I looked too long into a dark hallway, I wouldn't be alone. One morning I found something on my windshield. Not a ticket, not a flyer. A still frame, printed in grainy black and white. Camera 4C, the hallway. Time stamped 2:37 a.m. And in the middle, me, standing, alone, looking directly into the camera with pitch black eyes. But I was never in that hallway. I never left the security room. I dropped it and backed away, heart pounding. I looked around the street, nothing but morning stillness. A jogger, a passing car, nothing that explained the picture. I picked it up with shaking hands and burned it in the sink that night. But it didn't burn easily. The edges curled, but the center, my face, stayed intact for too long. That night I dreamed of the hallway. But it wasn't a dream. I could feel the cold floor beneath my bare feet. I stood at the edge of the open steel door, unable to move. A breath, not mine, blew past my ear. Inside the door was nothing. Not darkness. Absence. And something inside that absence was watching. I woke up standing in the kitchen, hand on the back door handle. The lock was undone, the chain unhooked, and muddy footprints, not mine, led from the door to the hallway. Long, narrow, barefoot prints, with 6 toes. I fell to the floor and stayed there until sunrise, paralyzed by the certainty that something had just walked out of me. I decided to leave town. I packed a bag. No plan, just distance. I drove west until the gas light came on, pulled into a station, barely functioning. A man inside, mid-60s, pale, quiet. He stared at me too long before speaking. Then he said, "You came from the building, didn't you?" I froze, my mouth went dry. He just nodded like he'd seen it before. He didn't explain much, just handed me a burner phone and said, "If you ever see the door again, don't go through it, even in dreams." I asked how he knew. He just whispered, "We all see it once. Most don't come back." Then he turned away, like our conversation had never happened. I drove away fast, heart thundering. That was 2 months ago. I haven't gone back. I moved states, changed my name, got a different job, daytime only. I sleep with the lights on. I haven't told anyone. I didn't want to. But last night, I saw something on my new building security feed. One door, end of the hall, handleless, just like before, timestamp 2:37 a.m. And in the last frame, just before the feed cut to static, I was standing in front of it. wearing clothes I haven't worn in weeks. I don't remember walking there. I don't remember standing. But I was there, and now, every night I check the footage. And every night, I'm one step closer to that door, too. I know where this ends. I just hope when I open that door, it's empty on the other side. Because if it is waiting for me, if I'm waiting for me, then maybe I was never meant to leave that building at all. I stopped watching the footage after that final night. I unplugged everything, the monitors, the DVR, even the smoke detector in my apartment. Every little red light made me think I was being watched. I even taped over the webcam on my laptop and tossed my phone in a drawer, but somehow it still found ways to appear. I'd walk past mirrors and catch glimpses of myself, but not quite myself. My reflection was always a little slower, a little taller, and sometimes smiling when I wasn't. Once I woke up to find the hallway light on, the door wide open, and muddy prints again, six-toed, trailing into the kitchen. They stopped at the fridge. When I opened it, everything inside was rotting, even though I had just bought groceries the day before. I threw it all out, but the smell stayed. The rot wasn't in the food. It was in the air. And every night at exactly 2:37 a.m., the shadows in my hallway stretched just a little too far, like something unseen is pacing, waiting just outside my vision. I haven't opened that hallway door in weeks, but I hear it breathing. 3 nights ago, I made the mistake of looking through the peephole. It was 2:37 a.m. again. I had been lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, heart hammering for no reason. Then the breathing started, shallow, wet, raspy, just outside the door. I told myself not to move, but something deeper than fear made me rise. My feet moved on their own. I stood before the door, listening. I leaned in, and I looked. On the other side wasn't a hallway. It wasn't even my building. It was that goddamn underground corridor, the one from camera 4C. Only this time, I was seeing it with my own eyes. The lights were flickering. The steel door at the end was wide open. I couldn't see what was inside, but I could hear it. That dragging sound, that liquid slick shuffle. And closer now. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, getting louder. I blinked. The corridor vanished. It was just my hallway again, empty, normal. But when I stepped back, I realized the door was unlocked, even though I hadn't touched the bolt. And from under the gap at the bottom, black liquid was seeping in. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the floor back against the far wall of the apartment, eyes locked on the front door like it might explode open at any second. The black liquid had stopped seeping by morning, but the stain it left never dried. I scrubbed it with bleach, ammonia, anything I had, but it felt like the floor rejected cleaning. It wanted to remember. I took a photo of it to send to a friend, just for sanity. But in the picture, there was something else. A tall shadow standing on the other side of the door, just barely visible through the frosted glass. I zoomed in. Its head was tilted. Its hands were pressed against the door, 6 fingers on each. I blinked. Looked again. Gone. The photo file deleted itself while I stared. I didn't touch anything. It just vanished from my gallery like it had never been taken. That's when I realized this thing didn't just live in the footage. It lived in memory. It made you question what was real and what was given to you to remember. The final straw came last night. I was lying on the couch, lights on, TV playing static because I didn't want silence. That's when my phone rang. No number. Just a gray screen that said, "Viewing requested." I don't remember pressing anything, but suddenly the screen changed to a live feed. Camera 4C. The hallway. The door. Open again. Something was crawling out of it. Not walking, crawling. It dragged its body with its arms like it didn't know how to use its legs. Its skin was pale gray and sagging like it had melted and rehardened. I watched in paralyzed horror as it pulled itself closer to the camera, slowly, frame by frame, until its face filled the screen. It had no eyes, no mouth, just stretched, trembling skin over where features should be. Then it pressed its face against the lens, and the screen cracked. Not metaphorically. My phone actually cracked. I dropped it. When I picked it up, the screen was spiderwebbed but still on, and one word was flashing in red. Accepted. Now my front door is open again. Not wide. Just enough. Just enough for something to be watching. I didn't run. I should have, but I couldn't. My legs wouldn't move. It was like the moment I saw that door open again. Just slightly. The air thickened, heavier than gravity. Every part of my body became a stone. My breath was stuck in my throat. That word flashing on the screen, accepted, it echoed in my head like a verdict. I kept staring at the phone even after the screen went black, hoping it would all vanish if I waited long enough. But then I noticed it. The sound. A new one. Not the dragging or the breath. No. This was wet. A sticky, squelching noise like raw meat slapping tile. It came from the hallway. From the door. I turned toward it, slow like I was underwater. The door wasn't just open now, and it was wide. The hallway beyond was no longer mine. It looked like concrete again, like sublevel 3, and something pale was stepping through. I didn't see its full body at first, only a foot, elongated, hairless, bare. The skin was thin and veiny like it belonged to something embalmed and brought back to life. As the rest of it followed, hunched and slow, I realized this wasn't the creature from the hallway footage. It was me. At least, a version of me, but distorted. Its limbs were stretched too long. Its face had no detail, just the smooth memory of one. Like someone tried to sculpt my body from memory and got all the proportions wrong. Its head twitched as it stepped forward, neck crackling with each motion, and its chest rose and fell, even though it had no mouth. It was breathing. It was alive. I backed away, crawling over the coffee table, knocking over a lamp. Glass shattered. Light died. I was in darkness now, save for the glow from the TV's static. My reflection flickered on the screen. For a second, I saw both of us in it, me and the other me, standing behind me. Closer than it should have been, closer than the door. I turned around. Nothing there. But the door slammed shut by itself. I heard it click. The lock twisted. The chain latched. Then silence. I should have left right then. But curiosity is a cruel thing. It's not brave. It's not useful. It's just the part of your brain that lies and says, what if it's nothing? So I stood up, shaking, and went to the door. I put my hand on the knob. The moment my skin touched the metal, a sensation rippled through my arm, cold and invasive, like something was grabbing me from the inside out. My vision blurred. My head spun. I stumbled back and hit the floor. And suddenly, I was in the building again. Sublevel 3, standing in front of Camera 4C's hallway. The steel door wide open. The hum of the servers filled my ears again, but now they sounded like screaming. A low mechanical howl that vibrated inside my teeth. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. Only stare into that doorway, where nothing existed. No walls, no floor. Just that darkness that seemed to pulse. Then I saw them. Eyes. Thousands of them, blinking in the dark. No faces, just eyes. All sizes, all colors. Some human, some insect-like, and all of them fixed on me. A sound broke the spell. Not from the room, from behind me. I turned around, and I was watching myself again from the control chair. Like I was the camera now. I saw myself back there, frozen, staring into the hallway, surrounded by the screens. But they weren't playing footage anymore. Each screen showed a different version of me, in different homes, different clothes, different ages, and all of us were looking at the same thing. The door. I opened my mouth to scream, but no sound came out. I didn't have a mouth. I reached up, and my face was smooth. I could feel it, like a latex mask melted and fused to my skull. And then I woke up, on my living room floor. The door was still closed, the chain still latched, the TV still on static. But now, there was something on my wall, carved in what looked like ash. "You're ready to enter." And I knew somehow that the next time I closed my eyes, I wouldn't. I stayed awake for 3 straight days after that. Coffee, loud music, pain, anything to keep my eyes open. Every time I blinked too long, I'd feel myself slipping, like something inside me was trying to drag me back to that place. The place with the door, the hallway, the other me. But exhaustion is stronger than fear eventually. I fell asleep. And this time, there was no warning. I woke up standing in a room I had never seen before. White tiles, harsh lights overhead, no furniture, no doors, just 4 walls, each covered in screens, hundreds of monitors, all showing the same thing: me, sleeping, in different beds, on floors, in cars, on stairwells, in bathrooms. Every version of me was vulnerable, unaware. And behind every one of me was it. That thing. The copy. The watcher. My reflection unmade. In one feed, it hovered inches above my body like a predator considering where to strike. In another, it stood at the foot of my bed, head tilted, long fingers twitching. In one screen, it reached for me. I watched the fingers stretch and distort, slipping into the version of me's mouth, disappearing down my throat like feeding a puppet. I couldn't move. I tried to scream, but again, no mouth, no sound. My reflection on one of the screens turned to look at me directly, and in that moment, I realized I wasn't watching them anymore. They were watching me. Suddenly, the monitors all went dark, except one. The center screen. It showed the security control room from the very first night. Same grainy quality, same blinking light, but the chair was empty, the monitors were off, and the door behind the station was wide open. Then I saw it. Myself, stepping into the frame from the hallway. But I wasn't walking. I was being dragged backward, head low, feet scraping the floor. Something was pulling me by the shoulders, slowly, patiently, like it had all the time in the world. The dragging stopped when my body slumped into the chair. My arms flopped to the sides, my head tilted unnaturally back. And then, I moved. But it wasn't me. The body in the chair sat up straight, stiff, mechanical. It typed something on the keyboard. The feed zoomed in on the monitor, and I saw the message being written. "Hello. I'll be watching tonight." The screen blinked. The light behind the chair turned red, and the figure, my body, began to smile. A wide, wet, unnatural smile that tore through skin like paper. Then all screens shut off. I jolted awake in my real bed, drenched in sweat, the sheets twisted around me like chains. I ran to the bathroom, my mouth hurt. Inside, blood. Deep gashes on the inside of my cheeks like I had been stretching something too wide, like my face had been forced to smile in my sleep. And when I looked in the mirror, I saw my reflection blink, just a fraction of a second before. I did. It's not just following me anymore. It's learning. It's practicing. And I don't think it wants to copy me. I think it wants to replace me. Script. I stopped looking in mirrors. I don't even mean that as a metaphor. I covered every reflective surface in my apartment, mirrors, windows, black screens, even the backs of my silverware, because every time I caught even the briefest glimpse of my reflection, I saw it. A flicker too slow, a grin that lingered, lips moving when mine weren't. 2 nights ago, I woke up with glass in my feet. I had sleepwalked, shattered the bathroom mirror, and stood there bleeding, apparently for hours. When I replayed the hallway cam I'd set up, I saw myself walking calmly out of my room, stepping barefoot on shards of mirror like I didn't even notice. And behind me, the reflection walked in reverse, step for step, smiling the whole time. Yesterday I visited a sleep clinic. I told them I was afraid I might hurt myself during sleep. They strapped a small sensor to my chest and told me they'd monitor my vitals overnight. I didn't make it to morning. At 2:37 a.m., the machines flatlined. The nurse rushed in, found me gone. The door hadn't opened. The window hadn't been touched. It was like I had ceased to be. But I remember where I went. I was in the hallway again. Only this time it wasn't empty. The air was thick, like fog had bones in it. I moved forward even though I didn't want to. My feet were not my own. And standing in the doorway at the end of the corridor was my reflection. Not in glass, not in digital form. Flesh. Solid. Real. It looked at me with its featureless face, and it tilted its head just like the version in the mirror. Then it stepped aside, inviting me in. I didn't want to move, but my legs obeyed. Every step felt like sinking into a deeper grave. When I passed through the doorway, I expected blackness, but inside was a room. A room filled with hundreds of others, like me, sitting in chairs, eyes wide, mouths sewn shut, heads twitching like puppets with cut strings, and in the center, a giant wall of screens just like before. But this time, they weren't showing alternate versions of me. They were showing the outside, different cities, airports, schools, office buildings, and in every feed, something was standing just outside the frame. A flicker of gray skin, a shadow too tall, a face not quite human. They were already there. My reflection stepped beside me and whispered, not in sound, but directly into my thoughts. We are not replacing you. We are recording you. So you forget what you really are. And then it touched my forehead. I fell, back into my body, back into the clinic room. The machines exploded into life. Nurses screamed. I woke up gasping, eyes wild. The doctor said I had been dead for 7 minutes. But the worst part? They showed me the recording. I never flatlined. I never disappeared. The feed showed me lying still the entire time, until I sat up and smiled, and said, "It's done." My voice, calm, confident, I have no memory of it. And when I looked into the clinic mirror to check my own face and just to be sure I was me, my reflection didn't smile. It frowned, and then it blinked before I did. I don't think I'm me anymore. I mean, I look like me. I sound like me. I still remember my name, my apartment, the smell of that old break room back in the building. But something inside me is hollow, rearranged, like there's a shell still here. But what was inside got recorded over. You ever copy a tape too many times? How the edges blur. That's what my mind feels like now. A dubbed-over echo. Since the clinic, it's gotten worse. People talk to me and I hear them in reverse. I blink and suddenly hours pass. I find bruises on my arms in the shapes of fingers. Long fingers. Like something gripped me hard over and over and I didn't notice until it let go. My friend Ellie came to check on me last night. First time I'd seen her in months. She used to work security at another building. She believed me about the door. We talked for a while, until she asked if she could use the bathroom. I pointed her down the hall. She never came back. When I checked the hall, the bathroom door was open, light on, empty. But the hallway beyond it wasn't mine anymore. I saw concrete, flickering lights, camera 4C's corridor, and worse, the steel door at the end. It was wide open again. I screamed her name. Nothing. I took one step forward, then stopped, because something else was coming out. Not her, not the copy of me, but something else entirely. It crawled on all fours, fast, insect-like, limbs bending the wrong way. Its mouth covered its entire chest, and from it, I heard a sound. Ellie's voice calling for help, but muffled, trapped inside. Her voice was inside the thing's body. I slammed the bathroom door shut and ran. I don't know how long I drove. Hours? Days? I ended up in a motel 2 states over, the kind where no one asks your name and the walls are so thin you can hear people whispering to themselves all night. I tried to sleep, and I dreamed. This time I wasn't in the hallway. I was in the chair, back in the control room, in front of all the monitors. But the monitors weren't showing other versions of me anymore. They were showing everyone else. People I knew, people I didn't, sleeping, eating, crying, sitting at their desks. And in every screen, I was there too, standing just behind them, staring, breathing, waiting. Then I felt it, the cold metal of the console under my fingertips. I wasn't just watching, I was in control. I moved the mouse. The feeds changed. I could select anyone. Zoom in, zoom out, pause, rewind, record. I looked at the screen labeled Me and clicked Replace. A message popped up. Confirmed. And then I heard them behind me, the others, all the reflections, all the failed copies. They stood shoulder to shoulder behind my chair, silently watching, waiting. The lights in the room flickered red. Then everything went black. I woke up in the motel bathtub, fully clothed, the faucet dripping blood instead of water. There were scratch marks on the ceiling, words scrawled backward on the mirror, readable only through my phone's camera. It's your turn now. I checked my phone gallery. Every photo was gone, except one, a still frame, camera 4C, and in it, I was smiling. Only this time I was on the other side of the door, waiting, watching. Script. I wasn't supposed to stop in that town. I was driving back from my father's funeral. Long stretch of highway, tank running low, signal dead. The GPS had frozen miles ago, stuck on some blank patch of map with no name. I remember thinking I just needed gas, maybe coffee. Instead, I found myself turning down an old side road barely visible through the fog. It opened into a small valley town. Old buildings, brick streets. Looked like something from the 1940s, but cleaner. Empty, but not abandoned. Cars were parked neatly in rows. Shops were lit from the inside. Curtains shifted in upstairs windows, but there were no sounds, no birds, no engines, not even wind. I pulled into a gas station. The pump worked, old analog kind. I filled up, went to pay inside. Bell over the door rang, but the woman behind the counter didn't look up. She stared straight ahead, perfectly still, not blinking. "Hey," I said, "just got gas, pump 2. She slowly turned her head toward me, painfully slow, like it hurt. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" She mouthed the words again. I could feel the sentence, like it pushed through my ears without entering them. "No speaking, not here." I laughed, uncomfortable. "What is this, a cult town?" She didn't move, just stared, then pointed behind me toward the door. I turned. Another man stood there, thin, pale, face long and solemn like wet paper left too long in the rain. He raised a finger to his lips, a sharp shushing motion. I swallowed hard. "Look, I just need—" The lights flickered, and I swear, the air changed, thickened, tightened. My ears rang. A high, thin sound barely audible. I grabbed the counter for balance like the pressure in the room had doubled. The woman behind the counter dropped to her knees, hands over her mouth. She was crying, silently, tears streaming from wide, terrified eyes. The man walked up behind her, placed a hand gently on her shoulder, and whispered something into her ear. She nodded, trembling. Then she reached under the counter and pulled out a piece of chalk, walked to the wall, wrote one sentence in tall, shaking letters. "First warning." I didn't wait to ask what that meant. I backed out of the store, got into my car, and drove. But the road didn't lead out. Every turn circled me back into town. Every exit I took brought me back to the same central square. Clock tower frozen at 3:12, blinking yellow streetlights swinging in still air, and all around me, the people, watching, silent, waiting. I thought about honking the horn, just laying on it, blaring until someone, anyone, broke character and shouted at me. That would have meant they were normal. That would have meant this wasn't what it felt like, a dream sinking slowly into a nightmare. But the moment my hand hovered over the horn, a cold chill ran down my spine, like someone behind me was holding their breath. I didn't press it. Instead, I drove in circles, past the same storefronts, the same flickering light above the bakery, the same little boy standing completely still next to a red tricycle. His eyes locked on me every time I passed. I don't know how long I looped. Time moved strangely there. The sun never changed. The clock tower always read 3:12. At one point I stopped in the square, stepped out of the car and shouted, "Hello!" Nothing, not even an echo. I screamed louder, again and again, until my voice felt raw. Still nothing. But that's when they moved, from behind windows, storefronts, doorways. They emerged all at once, dozens of people, stepping in unison from shadow, every face blank, every mouth shut tight. No one came closer, no one said a word. They just watched. I shouted again, "Where am I? What is this place?" Nothing. Then, in perfect coordination, every one of them raised their hand and pointed. Not at me, but behind me. I turned. The boy. He was gone. In his place stood a tall figure, wrapped in what looked like robes made of stitched-together burlap and ash. Its face was hidden behind a mask made of broken porcelain, jagged edges, one hollow eye, and a thin mouth carved into a cracked smile. It stepped forward slowly, silently. My legs wouldn't move. Its hand reached into its robes and pulled something out. A bell. Old. Rusted. Ornate. It lifted the bell to its side, looked directly at me, and shook it once. Ding. The sound hit like a knife in my skull. Not loud, but wrong. Like something behind the sound. A memory trying to force its way into my head. My ears bled instantly. My knees hit the ground. Everyone else in the square dropped too, in perfect synchrony, as if their bodies responded to the bell through instinct or training. The figure took another step forward. Another ring. Ding. This time my vision blurred. The buildings around me rippled. The streets flickered. For just a second I saw something else. A version of the town scorched black, the sky torn open like a wound. Trees burning silently, people impaled along rooftops, all of them smiling. Then the image was gone. And I was back in the clean square, on my knees, bleeding. The masked figure reached toward me with a long, bony finger and traced something on my forehead. I couldn't see it, but I felt it, like a brand pressed into my skin. Hot, permanent. Then it stepped back. One by one, the others began to retreat. Not walking, gliding backward into doorways, alleys, behind windows, like rewinding tape. The masked figure was the last to go, disappearing into the clock tower's base without a sound. I was alone again. Only now, my voice was gone. I tried to scream, to sob, to breathe. My mouth moved, but no sound came out, not even air. The silence had entered me. I don't know how long I sat there. I must have passed out. When I came to, the square was empty again. The blood on my face had dried into flaky tracks, and the sun, still frozen in the same position, gave off no warmth. It felt like a painted sky. I stood slowly, head pounding, throat raw from screaming even though I hadn't made a sound. My voice was gone. Not hoarse. Gone. I could move my mouth, form words, but nothing came out. Not even breath. It was like my body still followed the rules of sound, but something had stolen the output. I stumbled to the car, hand trembling as I pulled open the door. The keys were still in the ignition. The tank was full. I didn't care where the road led, I just wanted to go. I drove. Faster this time. I didn't look at the storefronts or the empty sidewalks or the window blinds that twitched slightly as I passed. I kept my eyes forward, white-knuckled, begging for a road out. I took a left, only to find myself at the square again. Took a right, the bakery, turned around, the gas station. It didn't matter what I did. The town was a loop, a maze drawn in silence. My heart slammed against my ribs. I parked and got out, walking into the nearest building I hadn't tried yet, the old post office. The door creaked open, but the air inside was thicker, like walking into a mouth. The walls were covered in letters, thousands, maybe more, pinned, taped, glued, strung up by twine. All handwritten, all silent cries for help. I pulled one down. The handwriting was frantic. Can anyone hear me? I've forgotten what my voice sounds like. I think it's been years, I don't know, there's no time here. Another. He came with the bell last night, took my brother. He couldn't stay quiet. A third. If you're reading this, you're already part of it. Don't run. Running makes it worse. I dropped the letters and turned toward the counter. A young girl sat behind it, maybe 9 or 10. Her face was pale, lips stitched shut with black thread. Not medically, crudely, homemade. A line of dark X's down her mouth. She raised her hand slowly, pointed to my chest. I looked down. There was a mark burned into my skin, the same sigil the masked figure had drawn. I could see it now, glowing faintly through my shirt. A spiral with a jagged break in the center. It pulsed once, twice. The girl slid a small card across the counter. A map, drawn by hand, faded and smeared. It showed the town from above, a perfect circle. The clock tower at the center, no roads out, no bridges, just the tower. But there was something else. A tunnel. Beneath it. I looked up at the girl. Her eyes were wide, pleading. She mouthed one word. Below. I took the map, nodded, and backed out. The streets were quiet again, but this time I could feel movement under my feet, a deep vibration in the concrete, rhythmic, like breathing, or chewing. The town wasn't just cursed, it was alive. The map was more like a warning than a guide. It was drawn in frantic lines, shaking hands. No street names, no distances. Just shapes, symbols. The spiral burned on my chest was scratched into the paper right over the clock tower. Underneath it, someone had scribbled one word in red ink over and over again. Don't. But I was out of options. The roads were sealed, the town wrapped around me like a noose. My voice was gone. The people weren't people. The silence wasn't silence. It was containment. I reached the tower just before the streetlights began to flicker again, when that pale golden sky began to dim slightly, like something was breathing behind it. The heavy wooden doors of the clock tower creaked open when I pushed, revealing a spiral staircase that wound downward, not up. It smelled like mildew and rust, and something older, something wet. I descended slowly, each step echoing too loud in my skull despite the silence outside. Down and down, stone walls narrowing, torches flickering though I'd never lit them. I started to hear something, not noise. Memory. Voices from my childhood. My dad yelling, my mother sobbing behind a bedroom door. My own laugh, young, brittle, high-pitched, echoing like it was bouncing off wet bone. I reached the bottom. A vast underground chamber stretched out before me, carved from black stone. The floor was covered in intricate spirals, just like the one on my chest. But they were moving, shifting, like they were being redrawn in real time, etched by invisible hands. In the center stood a well, or something like one, a perfect circle in the ground, rimmed by silver, humming softly. I approached it cautiously. As I neared the edge, the pulsing in my chest matched the hum, like the sigil was responding to whatever was below. I peered into the well. At first I saw nothing, then eyes, dozens of them, blinking slowly in the dark, some human, some animal, others, unrecognizable, all open, all focused on me. And then, one by one, They closed, except one, the biggest. It rose, impossibly wide, up the walls of the well. A lidless, unblinking eye set in a mass of writhing gray flesh. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The air around me thickened until my lungs felt filled with glue. And then from behind me, a sound. Footsteps. Dozens. I turned. The townspeople had followed me down. But now they looked different. The stitches in their mouths had vanished. Instead, their lips were gone entirely, skin grown over where mouths once were. Their eyes were wide, their skin gray and slack, like wax figures left too close to fire. They began to circle the chamber, moving silently around me in a ring. Then one of them stepped forward. The boy from earlier. He held a mirror, small, cracked. He raised it toward me, and when I looked, I saw myself smiling. But it wasn't me. My eyes were wide, my lips stitched, and behind me in the reflection stood the masked figure holding the bell. I turned around in real life. No one there. When I looked back at the mirror, it had changed again. The figure was ringing the bell. Ding. And I dropped to my knees. The chamber shifted, spirals spun faster, and the eye in the well opened fully, revealing not a pupil, but a doorway. And beyond that, my world, my car, my house, my bed, my life. It was offering me an exit, but I knew the truth. If I stepped through that door, it wouldn't be me going back, it would be the silence wearing my skin. Script. The door inside the eye pulsed again. It was no longer just showing my world, it was pulling at it. I saw my living room, then the hallway to my bedroom. The camera on my laptop flickered on. Something was pressing through. Something wearing me like a glove. I looked at the stitched people circling the chamber. Some of them looked familiar, like old teachers, childhood neighbors, people I hadn't thought about in decades. Were they all like me? Trapped? Swapped? Consumed? The spiral on my chest burned hot. It wanted me to walk forward, step through the eye, return. But I wasn't going to let that thing use me, not like it had used them. I dropped the mirror. It shattered on the stone. The masked figure in the reflection let out a silent scream. I felt it, like claws across my ribs. The townspeople shuddered, twitching. Some dropped to their knees, and the eye began to close. Slowly at first, then faster. I ran. Not toward the eye, but toward the spiral etched deepest into the stone. It glowed red-hot now, pulsing like a living wound. I dropped to my knees and placed both palms against it. And I screamed. Nothing came out of my mouth. But the sound happened anyway. Inside the chamber, a wave of raw noise exploded, not from the walls or the bell, or even from me, but through me. It was all the stolen voices, all the screams, all the words left unsaid by those trapped here for years. The silence shattered. The townspeople screamed, their mouths still sealed, their eyes rolled back. The eye in the well thrashed, shrieking without sound. The masked figure staggered forward, reaching for the bell, but I grabbed it first. I rang it. Once. Ding. This time the sound was mine. The spiral stopped moving. The eye blinked. Then, darkness. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying in the middle of an empty highway. No fog, no town, no clock tower. Just my car beside me, lights off, engine cold. It was morning. My hands shook as I pulled myself up. I checked my reflection in the car window. No smile, no stitches, no figure behind me, just me. And my voice? It was back. But when I opened my mouth to speak, nothing came out. No, not silence this time. Nothing. I could feel the words, the breath, but the sound didn't exist, because it never had, because now I knew. The town wasn't real. The silence wasn't a curse. It was a containment, and I had broken it. I looked down at my chest. The spiral was gone, but something else was there now. A single word burned into my skin. Speak. And far behind me, on the edge of the wind, I heard a bell, ringing, once,